This is Nostalgia at Night Reviews, and tonight we're going to be reviewing Gak. Now, you can see here that it is a gelatinous substance, and that it glows in the dark. And this is a 2017 version of Gak, made in China here. This is the official Gak container. It's kind of like spreading out, you know, it's like Gak. Gak is a mess, you know, just... and actually we'll get to that in a second here as to the history of it. But this was made in 2017. This was purchased at a Toys R Us. I purchased this as a Toys R Us just as it was announced they were going out of business. So I popped in to check out Toys R Us for the first time in a long time, and found this whole nostalgia section of Nickelodeon artifacts, for lack of a better term, and they had some Gak there. And I picked myself up a Gak for the sake of nostalgia. Actually, Gak was created in July 1992 by Mattel. It was originally sold for $3 per bit of Gak. And I paid probably a little bit more than $3 for this. Maybe a couple bucks over $3. And some change. So Gak has gone up, and I think that they charged that because of they could, from the market standpoint, there's a soft spot for this substance for millennials, and they, like I did, bought, and they would pay a higher price than it was originally sold for. So at one point, it in the 90s, when it was first coming out, it actually outsold Silly Putty, which was the a champion in that market for such a long time, because it had been created a lot earlier than Gak. And the thing about Gak is let's open this up here. And it's just a really cheap, light plastic container, it's yeah. And so you got a harder rubber back, and then you can see how the Gak just takes form over what it was. And actually, this is old. I bought this a couple months ago, and there was a lot more Gak than there currently is. And this has been stored in this and just a cool, dry place, but it has evaporated. So it does have that tendency, unless you keep it in a Ziploc or something really strict, it tends to dissipate on you. So I have less Gak than I purchased than when I first purchased. So it is a commodity, It's got a stable shelf life, and also the non-toxic factor is a bonus. So it is safe for kids and pets and the elderly. This is essentially a nice little, throwback, and it also is in the same market as play-doh, which is a big market as well as far as these gelatinous substances go. And it was actually Gak was actually named. It was actually named based on from the Nickelodeon game show Double Dare, from the various messes of the slime that would coagulate and form in puddles all over the shooting of that area of the set of Double Dare. And they would just call that collective mass of mess Gak. And so that's kind of how this formed here. And it, again, it's shelf stable in that it doesn't grow mold or bacteria. So there's an interesting quality to that, It's also brightly colored. You can tell how brightly orange this is, which is very eye-catching. And when you hold it, you can squeeze it, you can crack it. If you can get it going, there you go. Getting the cracking, you can hear it a little bit. It would crack a lot more when I had more. Okay. So, anyway, and it's got this this cold, wet feeling, when you play with it, and it almost feels like, it looks like chewing gum right now, but it has a tendency to reposition itself and form based around its environment, as you've seen in the case here. And this is actually called a splat container, which is perfect, for the mess that is Gak. And it's kind of symbolic, it's like this spreading out of this blob, an amorphous blob, that just. And if I just left it there, it'll form around what its boundaries are, which is fascinating, So again, you can make sounds with it. It's the symbolic shape of a mess, the container and the Gak. So so it's like moist, but it leaves little wetness, when you touch it. It has germicidal agents. And it actually looks a little bit like, this is a bit of a Rorschach test on my part, a brain ball. If you know a football that was in the shape of a brain, it was like a Nerf football back in I believe it was the 90s. And I don't know if it was a Nerf ball, but I think it was, or it was made by Mattel. So that is kind of reminiscent right now, looking like that, I think. But and leave a comment if you guys remember the buying this back in the 90s when it first came out. Leave a comment if you remember Brain Ball, for goodness sakes. That's an really obscure thing to even bring up and remember. I mean, that would be fairly impressive if somebody does remember the Brain Ball. So anyway, this is Gak, and I'm just gonna poke it with a pencil here. Yeah, take that. See, and it bounces. You can see that it does bounce. Okay. And so I'm just going to put it back in here in a little bit, but before I go and put it back in the splat container, I'm going to see how well this glows in the dark for us. So Nostalgia at Night is going to turn off the lights here. Let's see how well it does. Not too well. And let's see if we charge it up to the lamp here. Bear with me one moment. And let's try it now. So there may be a chance for it to glow in the dark. Maybe it's because it's been sitting out a little bit and not in an airtight container. But it has been a review of Nickelodeon's Gak. This has been Nostalgia at Night.